Good morning, BST. My name is Elijah Abdul Sayed, and welcome to this episode of BST Talks.
Hello, Cowboys. I'm the co-host of this podcast, Brady Volkman. Welcome to this episode of BST Talks, Get to Know Your Classes and Teachers, Part 2.
Today, we will be interviewing Mr. Huxell, Mr. Fallon, Mr. Rogers, and Ms. Parker.
The first teacher we will interview is Mr. Huxell. What classes do you teach, and what are some of the main topics that you'll be teaching in your classes?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to be here and to be a part of the BST family. I am teaching English 9 honors, so 3 periods with the freshmen, teaching them English, and then 2 periods of AP English 11, AP Lang, and composition for the juniors.
What are some tips that you recommend for studying the specific topics that you will be going over?
Yeah, I think I try to make my class really participation oriented, and we do a lot of the work in class, classroom discussions and things like that. So I just love when students just come to class prepared and ready to discuss and have read and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
How do you want your students to organize their notes? Do you prefer a folder, binder, notebook, or something else?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I give all the students the opportunity to do everything digitally if they want to. So everything is in Google Classroom. I try to make Google Slides, Google Docs for notes and things like that. But I also understand that some students like to take paper notes. So I give them that option as well. And we'll just roll either way for notes. Digital or paper. I'm good with both as long as you turn them in.
What is the most difficult part of the courses that you teach going to be?
Good question. I think I'm going to talk about a little bit about AP Lang because that one goes really in depth for my juniors into like speeches and looking at the different arguments that a speech is making and the rhetorical devices that they're using and different things that they're trying to persuade you with, different tactics. So just being able to pick up on those is a learned skill. You may be getting persuaded and you might not know it. So kind of like learning those devices and learning the tools that speakers and authors use to kind of persuade you is kind of something that's new to students and that's fun to teach. So yeah, I'd say just being able to pick up on those little nuances in writing.
When and where are you available for students to ask questions or ask for help?
So I'm available during lunchtime. I'm available. I usually try to get here around 8 or so before school. If you want to come in earlier, just let me know beforehand, and I'll try to be here a little bit earlier. And then after school, I'm usually here until at least 4. So any of those times, if you want to come and ask me about your essay or about the reading that we did or anything like that, I'm available. So yeah.
What are you most and least looking forward to teaching this year?
Oh, good question. Maybe I'll focus on my freshman class. So we do a mix of fiction and nonfiction, and I am more of a fiction guy. I like, kind of the more, it's a little bit more fun, in my opinion. So I'm looking forward to reading Hunger Games and Romeo and Juliet. That was like one of my favorites. So, and then different speeches in my AP Lang class, different speeches that stuck with me that I've already taught some of them to my juniors. So just excited to teach those. And least looking forward to, I don't know if there's something I'm least looking forward to. Yeah, some of the stuff is more note heavy, like, how to write essays and things like that. So I know that's a little bit less fun, but still really important. So yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about your class?
Just that it's been such a pleasure. All you guys are so brilliant, and it's just been so much fun getting to know each of you. And yeah, if you could just enjoy your time here at BST, enjoy high school. Hopefully I can add a little bit more to that through the different things that we read, different prompts I'm going to ask you to write about. So yeah.
Now we will interview Mr. Fallon. What classes do you teach, and what are some of the main topics you'll be teaching in your classes?
I'm doing BST AP Physics 1 this year and hopefully AP Physics 2 next year along with it. Hashtag go AP Physics 2.
What are some of the main topics that you'll be teaching?
Okay, so this is talking about the science of how things work. So if you're talking about throwing a ball someplace and finding out where it's going to land, predicting that ahead of time, that's it. If you're pulling things around with strings and springs and rubber bands, we're talking about the physics of causing those motions. We talk about collisions. So if two cars crash and then they move, which way do they move when they hit each other? We do gravity a little bit. We do some stuff with rotational motion, like gyroscopic effects and gyroscopic stability. So that gives an idea about what it is without naming all the topics. That's basically some of the things that come up in there.
What are some tips that you recommend for studying the specific topics that you will be going over?
There's no substitute for actually putting in the time, doing some practice problems. With physics, it's best to study by putting pencil to paper and running through the problems. Practice makes perfect. But we've got lots of really good videos on it too. So step one, practice problems, the biggest thing. Write down your questions and bring them in to a tutor or to the class or to a study group. Read the book, watch the videos. There's some really good videos from. He's called Flipping Physics. There's a pretty good series on that. And then of course there's the AP daily videos. Being an AP class, there's a lot of really good resources there. So many things to do, but I think those are probably my top.
How do you want your students to organize their notes? Do you prefer folder, binder, notebook, or something else?
Funny thing is, I've been going really electronic lately, so I like the electronic organization, but whatever works best for them is fine with me. I like organization in a binder, but somehow, like, a lot of people do electronic notes these days, and I think it really helps to have an organization structure for that. Not particular on it, really, as long as you keep your lab notes together, because that can be college credit at the end of the year.
What is the most difficult part of the courses that you teach going to be?
Historically, for some reason, the rotation is what gets people. I think it's because it's the most complicated. But on the flip side of that, whenever my students at the end of the year have to describe something, they usually want to think in terms of rotation anyway. So it's one of those things that is just such a big deal to everybody. I think maybe it's hardest because it's most complicated, but it's I don't know. It's the one that people at first say, this is fun, I'm getting it really well. But for some reason, we'll always think back on it and think, that's the part that I need the most help on. So I'm going to have, it's different for everybody, but overall, on average, I think it's the rotational thing.
When and where are you available for students to ask questions or ask for help?
When and where am I available for questions? Always, everywhere, except realistically, email is a place to meet me if I'm not there personally. I'm here after school and lunchtime just about every day. I'm always here at lunch. After school, at least for a little bit of time every day. I seem to always be here for something. I'm going to come up with specific office hours, but we haven't decided those yet. There's going to be two distinct hours every week for sure. But I think without having that nailed down, I'm just always here. I pretty much live in this classroom after school, not so much before.
What are you most and least looking forward to teaching this year?
Most looking forward to teaching? So much of it. There's some really fun stuff in rotation. That's a couple places where there's a lab in rotation where they discover something for themselves, and it's always a nice moment to be there with them for that. It's cool. I love doing waves, but that doesn't come up till AP Physics 2. Hashtag take AP Physics 2. That's one of my favorite topics at all. But in AP Physics 1, it might be momentum. Where we're talking about sports science and stuff. That might be one of my favorite parts. My least favorite, there isn't that, except there is actually. The intro stuff, it's so hard to get started. We've gone through most of that already. So introducing new methodology and how you do stuff in labs. But, I mean, we're basically there. So I'm not, the least favorite is over with. It only gets better from here, that's what I say.
Is there anything else that you would like to say about your class?
I think it's fun, not that I'm biased at all, but I think that physics is one of those really cool things where you learn super practical things about life. Students will tell me that when they get to college, they'll come back and tell me that one of the classes they remembered really helped them learn how to be a college student, and it felt most similar. They kept reminding of their experience in AP Physics when they got there. So it really helps you with college prep, with critical thinking. Even if you're not just going to go into science, it helps you with all that stuff. So it's a good place to be for those who are going to have to do it. It's worth it, I think. But I also think it's a lot of fun, and can't wait to meet the next group and to work with the group we got right now. We're off to a great start.
Now we will interview Mr. Rogers. What classes do you teach, and what are some of the main topics that you'll be teaching in your classes?
So I teach AP Human Geography to my ninth graders, And for 11th grade, I teach AP US History. In AP Human Geography, it's going to cover topics ranging from, it's mostly about how the world and people impact each other. So how does the environment and people impact each other? But that ranges from things like population. So what are we going to do about overpopulation in the world, and how is that impacting things? To new urbanization, like what is the cities of the future going to look like? Those sorts of things. Whereas in AP US History, we're covering everything from Columbus all the way through to the modern era. So we're covering essentially about 500 years of history, but all U.S. So we're going to be covering topics like the American Revolution. We're starting that this week. The Civil War, World War I, World War II, how America became a world power, and the Cold War, things like that.
What are some tips that you recommend for studying the specific topics that we'll be going over?
So the most important thing is, for both of my classes, I put in my Google Classroom a section called Important Year-Long Materials. And if the students use all the materials I put in there, they should be solid. So whether you're talking APUSH or AP Human Geo, the guided notes that they take, that's going to be huge to study. There are videos in those classrooms, or in the Google Classroom. For AP Human Geo, it's going to be the Mr. Sin videos. For APUSH, it's going to be the Heimler videos. There are Quizlets that I've put in there. I think if they just use all those different tools and then try to figure out which one works best for them personally, and once they've figured that out, then they'll be solid in studying for the classes.
How do you want your students to organize their notes? Do you prefer a folder, binder, notebook, or something else?
So I provide them with guided notes, and with each set of guided notes, I provide them with either a KBAT or a timeline, depending on which course they're in. That gives them the main ideas and the main events that they need to know. And I would just suggest that they order those in a folder. So for Human Geo, I have them just start putting Unit 1 KBAT in a folder, and then behind that, their guided notes. And then behind that, their Unit 2 KBAT, and behind that, their notes. That they have all of them building throughout the year so that they're ready to review at the end of the year for the AP exam. For APUSH, exact same thing. So we're going to have Units 1 and 2, a timeline with their guided notes. And behind that, time periods 3 and their guided notes, and so on. And again, if they do that, then they'll be building all year so that when it comes time for the AP exam, they'll have everything they need in one place.
What is the most difficult part of the courses that you teach going to be?
So I think for really probably for both classes, it's going to be the writing tends to be the biggest struggle. For AP Human Geo, they have to learn how to do FRQs. And so in the multiple choice questions, they can kind of figure out, okay, here's the big theme that they're talking about and here about Human Geo. And then I can figure out from the answers which one kind of lines up with that. But when you're doing an FRQ, you really have to be able to explain the way they want you to with examples and stuff like that. So I think that's the case in Human Geo. And I think same thing in AP US. It's that they have so many different types of writing they have to do. They have to do SAQs and LEQs and DBQs. So it's keeping all in line with, okay, what does each type of writing require? And then knowing my content well enough to be able to actually explain it in that writing. So I think those are probably the most challenging things that the kids are going to face in here.
When and where are you available for students to ask questions or ask for help?
So I'm available every morning. I get here around 7:30, so the students can come in as you can see. There's some in here right now. In fact, between 7:30 and 8:30 to get extra help if they need it. After school, I'm available from 3:30 to 4:30, and that's every day. And then lunchtimes, I don't usually have students want to work during lunch, but if students need help and they make an arrangement with me, then I'm willing to do that too.
What are you most and least looking forward to teaching this year?
So honestly, I can say that there is nothing that I'm going to take that back. If there's one thing I'm least looking forward to, it probably is the writing, because there is so much of it. And I know it's not the stuff that's entertaining for the students. They have to do it, so I have to teach it, and I want to teach it well so they can pass their exams. That's probably the least thing I'm looking forward to. But in terms of the content, I can't pick just one thing. With Human Geo, I love all of it. It's just so much fun. With APUSH, I've been teaching U.S. history for 25 years. I absolutely love it, all of it. If I am going to pick APUSH, I'd say probably like the Revolution, the Civil War, and maybe the Cold War. But it's hard to choose because, I just love all of it.
Is there anything else you would like to say about your class?
Just that, again, I'm looking forward to a great year with both my freshmen and my juniors. And I hope that the students feel like they can come into this classroom every day and that they're going to be learning something and learning it in a way that's enjoyable. And I hope that my students know that they always have a safe place if they do need extra help and whatnot. But other than that, let's just have a great 2024-2025 school year.
Now we will interview Ms. Parker. What classes do you teach, and what are some of the main topics that you'll be teaching in your classes?
Okay, this year I'm teaching AP Seminar and AP Research, which are the two courses in the AP Capstone program. Both of them focus heavily on research and the act of creating research. So we'll go into a lot of text analysis and evaluation of arguments, as well as just ensuring that we're crafting strong research questions that are able to effectively and concisely guide research that we can sustain and be able to find credible academic sources for.
What are some tips that you recommend for studying the specific topics that you'll be going over?
A big component of both courses is the elements that we're turning in, which happen to be 1,000 to 5,000 word essays. So we do it in chunks. So my best study tip is just to keep up to date with the deadlines, because a lot of what we do in class is the work we end up turning into College Board for the AP grade. And once the research is underway, it's just important to make sure everything is submitted on time, so you don't miss any submission deadlines. And also, participating in peer review and asking friends to look over your work is such a helpful aspect. So I would say just check in with your peers and see if you have anyone who can give you feedback to help you improve.
How do you want your students to organize their notes? Do you prefer a folder, binder, notebook, or something else?
Great question. For seminar, we don't take too many notes, but usually if we do, I'll have an assignment on Google Classroom just to keep the notes digital and in a place that you'll be able to come back to. And for AP research, those students, since they're conducting year-long research, they each have a Google Drive where they turn in all of their work to. So just making sure that it's up to date and you move over every piece that you're turning in is really important so that we can keep everything in one place.
What is the most difficult part of the courses that you teach going to be?
Maybe just the stamina in like sustaining projects that take 2-3 months. Again, in seminar, we focus on the same research question and the same topic for 3 months at a time, where we brainstorm, we write essays, we do a presentation on it. And then in research, it's the whole year on the same exact paper. We only write one essay, but it's 5,000 words. So probably just making sure everyone is picking something that they enjoy, but also that they can sustain is pretty tricky, because it gets tricky at times when you're doing the same thing for such an extended period of time.
When and where are you available for students to ask questions or ask for help?
I'm usually here before school around 7:45, and I'm here after school until about 4 p.m., but I can be here longer for tutoring or if anyone wanted me to go over anything or look over any essays, just through appointment. If you let me know, I can stay longer.
What are you most and least looking forward to teaching this year?
Oh, I love that question. I'm most excited just to see all the unique topics of focus for all the seminar students and also for the research students' research projects. I can't wait to see what everyone creates, and there's like a really cool way that you can research anything that your heart desires in this course. So I'm just excited to see what everyone comes up with.
Is there anything else that you would like to say about your class?
AP Seminar and AP Research may seem like a lot of work, and at some points it is, because again, you're sustaining academic research and dissertation level papers, but I'm always happy to help in any way that I can, and will do what I can to make sure we have ample time in class to work on all of the components. But again, just hang in there, ask your friends for help, and we are going to get 5s on the AP exams.
Thanks for listening, guys. Tune in next time for a new episode. Get to know your classes and teachers, part 3.
And remember, be your best at BST.